ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Axia, as we get started here for round 3 at Donington Park. We are just waiting for the practice session to end up here before we start jumping right into qualifying. Everybody, I just want to say a huge shout out to everybody that is participating today. We have exactly 29 drivers, ladies and gentlemen. 29 with a possible of one that may join us. So this is definitely going to be an interesting race here at Donington Park as we get close to getting started here. We're just going to quickly return to garage. Qualifying is up and away as we wait for everybody to start rolling out. We got Tuda coming out here on the grid, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Just trying to find my mouse so I can figure out where these drivers are at. Let's take a look. Let's follow where Tuda is. Scroll down here real quick. Where is Tuda? Tuda is out. We see the liquid metal Aston Martin right behind him. That is going to be, I believe that is, let's see who we got. Farmer out. We have Louis. We have Michelle out. We have Tom Castellani out. We have Casey Bennett out. A lot of these drivers trying to get their fastest laps in before. And there we have Ember in the chat. C. Simmons, Cooper Simmons. He is returning for the second race here. With us at GTMR as this battle starts to ensue. We have a lot of newer drivers as well. Let's take a huge shout out to Mr. Pio. Let's take a look. Where is Pio? Bruno Pio, the I believe the Brazilian driver in that McLaren, working his way around the track as people are trying to get through there. We see Ryoke in the Lamborghini right behind him as well as we start to see everybody else file through. Tuda is going to be coming around. Let's take a look. Where is Tuda? Tuda is about to reach the final hairpin. He's got Farmer right in front of him. 88 is also ahead of him. That's Fernandez. And we have 918 of Casey Bennett. So we'll just see how everybody lines up and rolls up. 91, car number 91 in the yellow in the final chicane area. Looks like that got cleared out and the drivers are still moving along. So we'll definitely have to keep up going there. Let's take a look. We're going to see what Fernandez puts as the provisional pole. Mr. Wilson Fernandez, the P2 finisher at Snetterton here at Donington Park. You can see that BMW definitely taking a lot of that curbs as he makes his way down the hill, and now he starts to work his way back through a lot of the technical sections. We have 17 minutes and 50 seconds to go as these drivers work their way through. Nice and tight, the BMW driver works his way up the hill here. See what he can do on the back half. He seemed to gap Casey Bennett a little bit. Fernandez and Farmer during the practice sessions were lapping around the same times as them, which were 126s, high 26s. So we'll have to definitely keep an eye on that as they progress through as well. Through the chicane he goes, a little bit bumpy right there. We're going to switch up as he enters into the hairpin. Super late in the braking, nice and tight as he works his way around. See what he can do through the final hairpin. So he's going to set the provisional pull, and then we're going to jump along board Farmer. He was the fastest in the practice server. Around the bend the BMW goes, and he's about to cross the line. As he's about to, you can see the yellow Lexus ahead of him, a low cross. Well, that's a 126.9. Where's Farmer? Farmer coming through the final hairpin. He's got Tuda right behind him in that Ferrari. Here comes the Honda of Farmer. What can he do? Can he respond? He has invalidated his lap, and that was a 127.4, so he's busy trying to work through the traffic as Lacroix is 1.5 seconds up on his time. Same with Kevin Tarrant, the New Zealand driver, who is currently sitting P15 as the grid works their way through this track. A lot of drivers may not be trying to set laps. Some may actually try to set laps as they work their way through. And around the bend he goes. Nice and tight. That Lexus is definitely an interesting one. We're testing it as the drivers were going through, as Michelle jumps up to P2, Aiden Hasbrock P3. We got Mathis 2 to P4, Casey Bennett P5, Louis going P6, Kevin Tarrant 7, Bruce Hopkins 8, Roku 9, Tom Castellani 10, Pio, the newer driver out of Brazil P11, and Josh Kimball slotting into P12 as we watch some of these other drivers work their way through. And hey, Alex Adorn, the P3 finisher. He was looking at P2 in the race, last race, possibly even the win. What does he put himself when he crosses the line? It doesn't look like he set a valid lap, but he was up 3 seconds when he was getting close there, even though he invalidated. That Aston Martin's getting a little squirrely for him. Definitely have to keep an eye on that as well as they work their way through the grid order. Now, this is definitely going to be tricky for some of the drivers as they race here. They're definitely going to want to try to find the perfect right track position. As we see Alex get off the track, here comes Cooper Simmons. He has put laps in with this liquid death. He's working his way through as we see Tom Castellani in that Honda right behind. Actually, no, I apologize. That's Peter David's Honda. Tom Castellani has the green and blue paint schemed Honda NSX as they work their way through and through the final chicane. Final chicane they go. Tom getting a bit of a better run, but that Aston Martin looking super stable as he works his way through. Here they go. First hairpin. Tom's looking in a very aggressive stance there into that hairpin, but he's going to have to work his magic and figure out what he wants to do as Pio slots himself P6 in that McLaren as we see Mauricio in the 25 Porsche. He is also one of the newer drivers. He's 1.2 seconds off the pace of our leader. And let's see, Simmons slots himself P16 ahead of Peter David. Now, Peter David is still right behind him. He's only 0.2 off that pace. So let's take a look as we go to Andre Alex Afonso in that Aston Martin. And there we see Tom Castellani off the track as we see the Aston Martin driver of Andre work his way up the grid, up the track and around the grid here. Definitely have to keep an eye on him as well as he works his way through. We see a little bit of dirt in front of him. Number 84 is off the track. He pulled off. That's going to be Ricky Scott. There we see with the Porsche driver of Mauricio. He is off the track as well. So a lot of these drivers still trying to get their braking mark points down right and working here. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one to see as the times are starting rolling in. Now look how close that grid spot of Peter David, Roku, and James Parks is, all within 1/10 of a second with the grabs of 17 through 15 as well. We're going to take a look and see what Andre can do. He's up 3 seconds on his time as he comes around the second to last hairpin. Here he comes up to the final hairpin in the Aston Martin. What can he do as he heavy brakes into it and he hooks it around, looking nice and tight in the Aston Martin. See what he can do. He's sitting 23rd right now. Bam, up to P11, ladies and gentlemen. So right now your grid order is Wilson Fernandez, Aiden Hasbrock, P2, Michelle, P3, Farmer, P4. Tuda, P5, Poe, P6. Andrew Jaschke coming out strong with that Audi. For those that do not know, usually he's used to driving the BMW, but he slotted himself into P7. Marucho, 8. Lacroix, 9. And Casey Bennett. So we see Ricky Scott off the track there. Casey Bennett rounding out your top 10, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just jump down the order and see. We got Alex Adorn. He hasn't set a time, but he's up 2.1 seconds. And he's up in the hairpin as we see Louis in that green and red BMW catching a little bit of that dirt coming out of that final chicane, getting a little squirrely there. So that's definitely going to be an interesting one to say the least as they go through here. And around the hairpin, Alex goes. Can he split up Farmer and Wilson in this fight and be the odd man out? He was looking super strong. Oh, P6. 0.2 off the pace of Tuda in that Ferrari. We see Tim Wilkins about to come out of the pits. Louis going super over the line. Andrew Cooper, it doesn't look like he is racing as of today. Let's take a look and see who has yet to set a time. Azareth Asby in that Porsche. He was looking super strong in practice. Definitely have to keep an eye on him to see if he's able to develop an even faster time and put it a little harder. There's Farmer right behind him in that Honda. With Asby on a fast lap, he's definitely going to need to, a lot of these drivers have to be very cautious of everybody else as they race and they go through here. But, hey, you know what I mean? If everybody can talk it through, they can work things through as we go through. Let's take a look. He slots himself P22, sets the same time as Cooper Simmons. There you see Mathis Tuda sitting in the pit lane, probably waiting for a time to come out to make things cycle and work. Let's take a look who is on a faster lap that's up in the front of the grid. Jacob Michel through the final hairpin with that Mercedes. He was 3/10 going into the corner. Now he's 4/10 coming out. 5/10. He could put it on pole. Oh, 0.005 away from Fernandez. What an amazing run route of him right there. Let's take a look. Anybody, as we see Maruccio, he is 5/10 up on his time. That would put him in that top 8 spot. That would slot him possibly P9 if he can hold it. It's showing 6 to 7/10. Here he goes. Onto the main straight. What can he do with 7/10? P9. There we go. About a 10th off the pace as Andre Afonso has to hit the brakes coming out of the pit exit. Let's take a look here. Peter David is up 3/10. He's one of the faster drivers in the back of the pack order as he comes through the second to last hairpin. Sorry, first to last hairpin. I apologize. We have 10 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen. This is just developing quite amazingly as we see 5/10, and he's going around. Let's see what he can do when he crosses the line. 5/10 will slot him into P18, P19 around there. Ooh, does not improve. Still sitting back there. Let's take a look at Tim Wilkins. He's up 5 to 4/10. He's bouncing around as he's coming out of that corner. Down the back straight through the chicane. What can the Mercedes driver do? Heavy on the brakes. Gets the hook. You can see the car getting a little squirrely. Heavy under braking. He's up a 10th on his time. Now it's kind of going away, but the question is he going to gain it back as he comes in? He's got a fast McLaren approaching him as they work their way through. Here comes the Mercedes of Tim Wilkins. Can he gain back his time? It does not look like he's going to gain any more time. No other driver is on a faster lap. Actually, Ricky Scott is up a second, but we're going to follow along board Tim Wilkins as he's about to cross the line. He's going to slot himself P24. Now here we're at with Ricky Scott for the Ricky Scott fan club. If they're in the chat, speak up, ladies and gentlemen. We have Farmers chat group here as we see the McLaren of Ricky Scott working his way through. We're just catching these drivers on their tail end of the lap as they come through. As we have a yellow in sector 1 with number 14. Andrew Cooper looks to be out. We're going to be jumping along board him. Ricky Scott he's gained his time back that he needs. He's up 1.5. Can he put it valid across the line? Let's see what he can do. Ooh, P18. What an amazing run. Andrew Cooper now in that Honda. He's 1 second up on his time as he's working his way through the grid. Now, last time he did a 2:19, but I'm not too sure what he's doing now as he's going around this track. Definitely interesting to see where he kind of slots in. Because usually the Delta will give you their prior lap and where they're accelerating. As we see, Brian Douglas has joined qualifying late. He is our 30th man, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a look at what Andrew Cooper can do when he crosses the line, and then we're going to actually slide right back up the grid order and ramble off the drivers and where they are at. But Tim Wilkins is up a second. Andrew Cooper is losing his time. Now let's see where Tim Wilkins is about to cross the line with Louis. He's P18. Bruce Hopkins jumps him, and Louis jumps him as well. Getting a beautiful run here as Ricky Scott slots himself P20. He's up 4/10. Do we have any big movers up in the front? We do not. Farmer's still sitting there in that P4 spot. Let's take a look as well. Ricky Scott is up 7/10 as he's coming through the final couple corners. See what he can do, and around the bend he goes. Does he improve? Does not look like Dominant Square is going to come out or Onisto is going to come out, but we're going to ride along Ricky Scott slots himself P17. Brian Douglas, he is now just coming through. He should be on a flyer coming after this lap. Let's take a look. Who else do we have that's a big mover on track as we go? Andrew Jaschke is up a 10th. He's going to try to work it. Aiden shuts the door on him on a fast lap. What a shame right there. Both drivers trying to work their way through. Andrew Jaschke trying to get a big, massive tow of Aiden. Aiden going to check out of that in the corner there. So it's not going to allow Andrew Jaschke to get a tow to get him around the few bends with 6 minutes left to play. Ricky Scott still up 4/10 on his time, and he is looking super racy. Andrew Cooper now up a second. He's coming up to the final corner. The entire second, if he can hold this, This will slot him all the way up to, I believe, 16, 17, splitting Tom Castellani and Ricky Scott. Can he hold it? Oh, he does not. Only slots himself P21 right behind Kevin Tarrans. And with Kevin Tarrans behind him and Tim Wilkins. And Brian Douglas now 1.4 seconds up on his lap here. This is going to put him in a strong flyer, but he's only going to have a few to go through in this race for Blue Blur Racing. Let's take a look at everything as things start progressing and they go through. Now he's still up half a second here, so he's still in the positives as we see Fife in the background there in that. Oh, Brian Douglas blowing the chicane, losing his brake bar, so he's going to have to definitely dig deep on that one. As we still see Andrew Jaschke's up on his time. Oh, does not improve, still sitting P10. Ladies and gentlemen, Wilson Fernandez still P1. Jacob Michelle P2, Aiden Hasbrock P3. Farmer P4, Pove P5, Tuda P6, are doing P7, Afonso P8, Maruccio P9, and Jaschke P10. What an amazing battle these drivers are having with us here as we see everything progress. Let's take a look. Who is the big mover? Brian Douglas still up on his time. Definitely going to keep an eye on him as he goes through. Where is he as he's going through turn one in that McLaren car? He is looking super racy as he's working his way. We have a yellow on the main straight, and okay, so some of the drivers have bounced back. That's good. 936, he is yellow there. Let's see what Brian Douglas can do. A lot of these drivers trying to figure out their spots. Brian Douglas probably has the cleanest track right now, followed by Josh Kimball. So these drivers are able to put in fast laps without a whole lot of traffic to deal with here. So Josh Kimball sitting P19, only 2.472 off the pace, with Tim Wilkins about 0.2 off the pace of him and about 1/10 with Bruce Hopkins in front of him. So this definitely is going to be a big mover, but can Brian Douglas make something happen here? Because he was about 2 seconds going into turn one, and he has just lost all of his time coming out of that chicane. He's going to have to dig deep and set a good lap. Last lap he did was a 1:30.567 was his last lap, and he is actually, he's picked up time in this final corner. Can he hold the second? He has lost the second, so that's going to possibly slot him into P16 right there. So that's definitely not what he's looking at, but he is one of our later pit rotation people, so he may benefit with a longer pit strategy. As we see Alex Adoran, he is 0.5 up, coming up to the final hairpin. What can he do as he's about to come up to it? He hasn't lost time, but he's gaining a little bit. Lost 0.2 or so. This will put him up into P3. Oh, that is just separating the gap of Farmer from Fernandez. Farmer's going to have to dig even deeper. He's going to have to find a spot on this track and where to put it, as Ricky Scott is in the yellow on the backside of the track, that number 84, with 2 minutes and 14 seconds left to play, everybody. Let's take a look. Afonso is up 1/10. Afonso is up 1/10, so that would actually slot him even further ahead of Farmer there, and it just seems like with the traffic position, a lot of these drivers still trying to be able to, but he's actually not up 1/10, and now he lost it in that corner. Louis following him in that BMW, trying to work his way through. Brian Douglas up 9/10. We may jump back down there with him to see how everything progresses there. Oh, Louis loses the back end back there. That's some of the tricky parts with that final chicane, is you have to run it a certain way. As Andre just says, I can't do it. Let's take a look at Brian Douglas. He's up a whole entire second. He jumps up to P19. Nice recovery from a P26 spot. And we have Aiden Hasbrock is up a second. Up 1/10, and your pole sitter right now is up 1/10, but it looks like they're both not gaining a whole lot of time. Farmer is off 6/10. He has about a second left to play as these drivers work their way through. See any big movers. We got Andrew Cooper. He is up 3/10 as he's working his way through the first hairpin. We have 50 seconds left to play, and these drivers are just trying to survive to get a lap in. See what they can do. 6/10 up. Andrew Cooper trying to work his way. Does he jump? Oh, he does not. He sits 22 right behind Tim Wilkins. A 10th off, but he's still going to have enough time to put in a flyer to hopefully save his qualifying by putting him up in a little bit of a higher position here on this race. Let's take a look who is now flying. We got Casey Bennett. He's going to be on a flyer. Is he going to cross the line with enough time? He is slower on this pace, but we've got 12, 10, crosses the line just with enough time to put in another hot lap as he goes through. Farmer is up a 10th on his time. The driver that has put in the time and the laps in practice session. Can he make the jump? Can he reel in the front four in the Honda NSX as he comes through the chicane? Here he goes, catches a little bit of the curb, but he manages to stick it. He's up 2/10. He's got 2 more corners, catches more dirt there. That's going to rub off a little bit of speed from him as he comes around the bend. See what he can do. He goes into that corner gaining about 4/10 of time on him, but he loses it coming out. Can he pull it off into the hairpin? Down he goes, keeping it nice and tight on the throttle. He's up a 10th. Now he's lost it. See what he can do. Does he? He improves his time, but not enough to jump anybody as they go through. Andrew Jaschke, he is up a 10th as he's coming up to the final couple corners. What can he do? The BMW driver, now Audi driver, showcasing his abilities with the mid-engine cars. He's the last car on the track other than Michelle. Michelle lost it out on Fernandez as they come around the bend. See what he can do. He's up a 10th. Oh, P10, and he lost it in the bend. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Wilson Fernandez takes pole at Donington Park in the BMW, followed by Michelle in the Mercedes. And Alex are doing in the Aston Martin. Is going to round out your top 3, ladies and gentlemen, as we wait for the drivers to start their formation lap. What an amazing qualifying session we had, everybody. What an amazing battles that these drivers had to go through the track. What a spectacular ride that we had for everybody. We're going to jump into the drive session, and we're going to take a look and go down the grid order. We're going to speed this up for everybody. I apologize for the delay. Let's jump into... Looks like we're a little bit stuck right here. Hey! But as we see some of these drivers here, we're just trying to get a little bit of a jump, and it does not seem to want to work for me today. But, I mean, what an amazing battle we've got. I mean, Fernandez pulling out a P1 ahead of Farmer, his main competition here in this championship so far. I mean, what a battle. I mean, oh, here we go. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to do the classic normal drive through the pit lane as we talk about the drivers. And here we are, the BMW driver of Wilson Fernandez, P1. Jacoby Michelle, P2. We have Alex Ardonin, P3. Aiden Hasbrock in the Slil Cut McLaren, P4. Farmer, P5. P.O., the new driver in the McLaren, P6 with Afonso, P7. Tuda, P8. Maruccio, the newer driver, P9. Andrew Jaschke slot himself P10 as Artem was not here to race with us to join us in the big Audi group up front. LaCroix is in the Lexus. Very nice showing there as Casey Bennett manages to pull himself in with the red Porsche there. What an amazing, stunning performance there with P12. Stefan Buckley. Last race, I did say he was 76. I apologize, everybody. He is 71. He has scolded me and yelled at me. So I just wanted to recover from my mess up. John Bowling, a.k.a. Blue Flag, which is in the league. He slots himself P14 with Ricky Scott 15. Louis bringing in P16 with a last enter part. Tom Castellani slots himself P17. Bruce Hopkins P18 in that Aston Martin. And then we have Brian Douglas manages to go from a late entrance into qualifying session to slot himself into P9. Josh Kimball, one of the owners of ARC, one of our fun sister groups leagues that we get to race in. Oh Jesus, jumped into him, and you know it's what an amazing driver he is. Glad to have him here at GT Meister Racing. We have Tim Wilkins bringing it in with the other Mercedes driver, as well as Andrew Cooper in the camo NSX of Black Rifle Coffee Company. Some of the best coffee. Definitely take a look at that as well. And we also see Grunt Style on that hood as well. Congratulations there. As we see Peter David bringing in the other Honda ahead of the Lexus driver. Oh, hey, look, we're getting drivers taking off today. Hey. As we roll our way through. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. As we get through, it should have never taken that long to talk, but there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The drivers of the grid. We're going to slot back down and talk about the further ones. I don't want to leave them out because everybody in this league deserves an appearance in the stream. As we take a look at Kevin Tarrant in that Lexus, as we see him working his way through. As we see Azarif Azmi, our driver from Singapore. Huge shout out to him for making it in. He's slot himself P25. Roku had a little bit of a tough race at Laguna Seca, managed to have a little bit of a better race at Snetterton, but here we see him P26 at Donington Park. Cooper Simmons in the other Liquid Death car with the teammates of Josh Bowling a little bit further up, P15, but Cooper Simmons bringing in the other Liquid Death Aston Martin. James Parks bringing in P28 in that McLaren driver. Danilo Onusto, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. If I botched it, I apologize. In that other McLaren, followed by Dominant Square P30, ladies and gentlemen. The grid is packed. The grid is big. As we watch the drivers make their way around the track, it's definitely going to be an amazing show, an amazing race and pace that these guys as we go through here. This is definitely going to be an interesting one, to say the least, as the drivers are slowing up, trying to get their tires going, trying to get everything all warmed up here. As we see Wilson Fernandez like, all right, guys, let's get started here. Let's get started here. Huge shout out to the chat coming out and watching. Definitely an honor to have you guys here. Let's, if anybody has a huge shout out to someone that's watching, let us know. We definitely see Ember in the chat taking huge shout out to Farmer as we get going. So let's see. We have a minute race. For those that are new to GT Meister Racing, we have a 1 hour race with a 40-minute pit window. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 40 minutes. So it's going to open within the first 10 minutes. All you have to do is take tires. Fuel is optional. And these drivers are going to try to battle it out throughout this whole entire race. We'll have to see if we're going to get a new winner for round 3. As we see Michelle getting his brakes all nice and warmed up as the drivers make it around the bend. We're going to switch up to Helicam for this start to see the top view as these drivers work their way through. We're going to wait for the green light. Green, 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 and we are away to go. I do not see a drive-through with the drivers. Here they come up to turn 10. Aiden covers a little bit of the inside, causing Farmer to have to check up a little bit. Afonso takes the dive on Tuda there. Aiden goes a little bit wide. There's a little bit of a tap in the back there. That's going to cause a little bit of a checkup as the drivers are still trying to make their way through the grid. As we see Andrew Jaschke and Tuda. Andrew Jaschke definitely looking super racy right there as they go through. Tuda spins around. He's going to have to dig back in deep as we see Aiden Hasbrock all over the back end of Farmer as Farmer makes his way through here. Farmer definitely trying to recover. Casey Bennett slots himself up to P6. What a beautiful run there by these drivers as they work their way through the grid order. Here they come up the hill as they work their way around. Casey Bennett having to check the brakes. He's got the fast running crew right in front of him as looks like John Bowling was the last man out there in that battle as he looks like he fell down as Ronan Maruccio. He's still sitting there P8. Stefan Buckley now being attacked by Louis and Ricky Scott in this battle as they work their way through. There is a massive freight train right behind them as Bruce Hopkins is taking a look right behind Ricky Scott as they work their way through the grid order, but we're going to keep an eye at the lead of the pack. Farmer taking a look on the inside of Michelle as Alex now slots himself P2 with Wilson following ahead of them. So now we have the top 5 racers, actually top 6, all freight train with Casey Bennett with the fastest lap. So this is definitely going to be an interesting one. How fast can Wilson separate himself from P2 and make it harder on Farmer and these other drivers to catch up as they go through? Michelle's covering the inside as much as possible to make Farmer really work it with that Honda as they go through. But Alex is also in the Aston Martin, is also trying to, Ada goes a little bit off the track there. Curious on what happened there. Michelle goes a little bit wide. That Honda NSX covers the inside a little bit better than the Mercedes driver here, but Michelle is definitely looking super racy. Shout out to Tom, number 47. Huge shout out to Tom Castellani, P23 in that freight train of 20, 21, 22, and 23 down into that. Ooh, Farmer having to check up on the brakes. He had a better run into that corner than the Mercedes driver. That's something a lot of these drivers are going to have to figure out when they're racing, as some of their cars are a little bit different in the braking zone. Huge shout out to Common Cold in the chat, the Bentley driver who likes to showcase the performance of the Bentley. Wish we could have seen you here on the grid order with that Bentley to see a little bit of performance, because we do not have a Bentley here on this grid as well. So now Wilson is separating himself 7/10 from P2 as Alex is now trying to gap himself from Michelle, but Michelle in that purple and silver Mercedes-Benz is saying, no way, Jose, I'm all over you. As they work their way down the hill, you can see the Honda NSX Farmer still trying to work his way in, and Casey Bennett on the outside looking in, trying to capitalize in case if something happens with these drivers, because at Donington Park, a lot of these British tracks, there's not a whole lot of runoff. So you have to be very precise in the corners that you take as you go through. But we're going to jump down just a pinch possibly and take a look at Andrew Jaschke here in a second as this battle is starting to develop here, because we see Casey Bennett in front of Andrew Jaschke, followed by Maruccio behind him. Now we're going to slot down even further to take a look at all of this as we go through. Let's take a look at Louis. Louis is going to have Ricky Scott all over the back of him as they work through. So as these teams start bunching in, oh, we've got Josh Kimball. He is all over the back end of Bruce Hopkins in the Aston. Is he going to take a look on the inside? He makes a little bit of a feint, checks out of it. If Brian Douglas is now up to P13 and they're working their way through here. Tuda still trying to make his way through the grid. Now, are they going to advance a little bit further? They're not. Andrew Cooper looking pretty strong against Tim Wilkins. He takes a look on the inside and lunges it super deep as the camera just panned over, but thankfully Tim Wilkins was not harmed there based with the Honda's driving. As we see Alex Lecroc, he is all over the back end of both of them as they work their way through here in this grid pack. This is definitely a definitely looking super racing. Common Cold says in the chat, I'll make an appearance this season. What a wonderful shout out. Will definitely be an honor to have you here racing with us. Let's take a look further down the grid because the battles are super spicy and we just want to get everybody in as possible. Kevin Torrance. Let's take a look at where Kevin Torrance is. Tim Wilkins now covering. We'll hold for a second as Andrew Cooper's looking super racy. Ooh, Alex looking super strong in the yellow Lexus. He's looking to possibly make a mover. Cooper covers the inside. Oh, what a beautiful run. Now Andrew Cooper has to cover the brakes. Ooh, the back end got a little squirrely. He lost it, but he manages to save it as they work their way up the hill. That Honda definitely trying to figure something out here in this battle, but it doesn't seem like anything is possible as they work their way up the grid. As we see Mathis Tuda back there trying to make his way past Roku in the Lamborghini. Oh, the Honda gets a run. Is he going to try the move on the inside? Tim Wilkins does not look like he's going to try to defend the position on the inside. Cooper sends it deep. Tim Wilkins is going to try the switchback, and he kind of makes it stick. Side by side they go. Andrew Cooper is going to have the run down in the hairpin, but will Tim Wilkins do a switchback on him coming up into the hairpin? He does not, as they Oh, this is a beautiful battle as we work our way through, but we're going to take a look as Mathis Tuda gets past Roku there. These drivers are still working their way through. Let's take a look at the leaders right now. We have Wilson Fernandez, Alex, Michelle Farmer, Casey Bennett, Andrew Jaschke, Aaron Mashiro. He is P7 driver is only off about a second. Louie and Ricky Scott still working their way through this grid order. But right now, the closest battle we have, I mean, there's close battles everywhere, but Tim Wilkins is all over the back, and it looks like Ricky Scott loses out on the downhill section. Looks like he lost his back end. Try not to get into the way of Cooper Simmons as they come into that hairpin piece. As Andre Afonso still trying to recover that drive. Ooh, Alex catches the dirt. Tim Wilkins runs a little bit wide. The Lexus tries to go wide. Switchback. Tim covers. Alex switchbacks again. Oh, is there going to be a battle into the final chicane? No, there's not. Tim Wilkins. Ember saying Farmer. We will jump over to Farmer very shortly, Mr. Ember. But right now, the battle of the mid-pack is developing, and it is looking super strong. As we go through, Louie all over the back end. We're going to jump along. Oh, actually, no. The Delta is lying to me. As they go through, Josh Kimball still looking super strong, but now he's going to have the Blue Blur Racing McLaren up. Brian Douglas right behind him, as Alex is still trying to take a look to get past Tim Wilkins in that battle, with Tim Wilkins and Alex definitely fighting for that last position. So right now they're separating themselves. The leaders are. We're going to jump along board our leader, and here you see Wilson Fernandez. He is 7/10 of the fastest lap holder of Alex here in that P2. Jacob Michelle looking super racy with Farmer right behind him. 1, 2, 3, 4, all within 2 seconds of each other. But there you see Casey Bennett. He's not far out. Ooh, look, Farmer catches a little bit of the curb and loses the car just a pinch. With Andrew Jaschke only about 1.2 seconds off of each other, as now the cars are starting to settle in and the pace performance is starting to work their way through. We're going to jump down board with Ricky Scott, as here the battle's, oh, John's looking on the inside. Up the hill they go. Cooper Simmons, that was a little bit risky by John there. But, you know, it's all up to the stewards to see what happens. Andre Afonso gets to dodge them there as they go through. In my opinion, it looked a little risky, but hey, we'll have to see how the stewards take a look at that as Afonso. Cooper Simmons manages to pull away a little bit, and Ricky Scott, P21. Ooh, and Alex Afonso, oh, he loses it in the grass just randomly. Here comes John. John's trying to dodge. Oh, he manages to squeeze past and not catch Andre Afonso. As we start to see, we got 42 seconds left as Peter David serves a 30-second stop go. Oh, what a shame there for that race with him. But hopefully he's able to recover it. And your one of your fast drivers who originally started the race, Mr. Poi, let's take a look. Where is he? Bruno. He's looking super racy right behind Bruce Hopkins. As we see Bruce Hopkins and is it Peter David? Yeah, it's Peter David right there in front of him. He's looking pretty racy to try to squeeze past these guys and get going. But now you're starting to see Alex Andre Q. He is starting to work his way. He's going to have Kevin Torrance in front of him, but he's also got Mathis Tuda behind him, and that's a battle for position. So the Lexus driver is trying to get past the back marker of P27 as they work their way down the hill. So now this is going to cause Tuda to catch up. Alex is going to send it deep, throwing him off guard, but Tuda's going to try to cover over. Oh, and here they work their way through the grid. What an amazing battle. Now Poe's going to have to fight back and pull a little bit of pace as they work their way through the grid. Tuda sends it deep, and he's going to cover the inside. Alex is going to give him a little bit of that space as they work their way through. Ladies and gentlemen, what a beautiful display of driving there. Usually it's a commentator curse when I say that. Usually something happens of a driver error, but does not look like it so far. But Tuda's still trying to showcase his performance right behind Alex as they work their way through. We have a yellow in the hairpin of 560 as they work their way through. As we see the pit window open, the drivers, Ricky Scott dives in the pits. Looks like Kevin Torrance dives in the pits. He covers that as we take a back jump up to Wilson. Fernandez loses it a little bit. So now that's going to slot Alex up in front. Michelle P2. Farmer still sitting P4. Oh, Michelle loses it a little bit. Now Farmer, he's going to have to dodge Wilson Fernandez there for a second there at the start of the race. Farmer goes in a little bit of an aggressive attack into that corner just because of the off camber of the pace and performance. But how much is this going to push back on Farmer? Because Alex right now is driving the best that he could possibly right now in this race. But Wilson definitely can take the fight back here as Michelle dives into the pits. Looks like he's possibly going for an early pit strategy here. As we see Kevin Torrance about to come out. We see Casey Bennett right there. Andrew Jaschke, as he's covering the brakes. Kevin Torrance is right in front of him. Andrew Jaschke's going to try to work his way down the hill the best that he possibly can go. Here goes Andrew Jaschke down the hill. Oh, Kevin Torrance loses the back end. Andrew Jaschke manages to squeeze through. Roshio Marushi, can he make it through? He does make it through in that battle. Michelle's now going to be coming out in a little bit of an awkward position here in this race as the drivers start to settle in. So we're going to swap up, back up with Wilson. Wilson looking super racy right behind Farmer. Now the question is where is the pit orientation of these drivers going to play out as they go through? Because if Wilson can land it, he can get the beautiful undercut on Farmer here in this race as they make their way through. That BMW looking super strong and smooth. Into the final hairpin. Does not look like Wilson really gains a whole lot on them. Wilson is lapping just a tad bit faster than Farmer here in this race. Let's take a look further down the grid. What's the spicy fights? As we see Bruno all over the back of Tim Wilkins here in the final couple of corners. We got 46 minutes left remaining as this battle keeps developing. Tim Wilkins is going to cover that final hairpin, but Bruno's going to try to make the lunge on the inside. He doesn't. Oh, he dives into the pits as well. So we're seeing a lot of early pit strategies of drivers diving in to try to get a good cycle through here in this race. As we see Mathis Tuda, he is still out on track. The P15 driver leapfrogs Bruno as they work their way through it. He catches the grass into turn one. What a shame there as we see Afonso. Let's take a look at where Andre Alex Afonso is as he works his way through. He's going to have Michelle in front of him. Michelle has already pitted, but we're going to also welcome into the booth the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Tom Castellani himself, the 47 driver of the Honda NSX. Welcome to the booth. How are you today, sir?
Too bad, not too bad. You're doing a wonderful job as always.
Thank you very much, good sir.
Yeah, obviously had to stop with the. I got to disconnect. Things were a bit of a mess early on, but
what a shame.
Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. All good.
As we see John Bowling, I think he's going to try to make that move again on that weird uphill double right-hander turn around the outside. He tried it originally against Ricky Scott, but manages to close the door just a little bit too early and kind of set the two cars driving. That's based on what I could see only on the camera, but I mean anything happens once you see it in the steward room. But he manages to get past the Lamborghini driver of Roku. Going through. I mean, Tom, talk us through. I mean, you were in there during qualifying. Sad to hear that you got disconnected. I mean, Cold was rooting for you in the race. We were hoping to see you battle it out in the, with the normal people that you usually battle it out with in this race. Talk us through qualifying. How was it? I mean, because we only saw it on the map. It was definitely busy. It looked like a lot of drivers were trying to find that happy median spot.
Yeah, busy, and there's a big pace split, so it can be really difficult to find a point on the track that works because if there's someone faster or slower than you, you get some real compression and closing speed. So that can be difficult. Me personally, I kind of set a couple bankers and then just was stuck with that. So I didn't spend as much time on track.
No, that's truly, I'd definitely say a good shot because it definitely helped you out in the race. I mean, you weren't super far back in the grid, but now how do you think a lot of these drivers that we see, Michelle, LaRock, Poe, Ricky Scott, we understand Ricky Scott had damage. He did the initial in early pit strategy. You know what I mean? I mean they had to come in based on damage, but a lot of these faster drivers that may have been were in the top 5 that are doing the early dives. I mean, how do you as a driver? I mean, you know their pace, and I understand that of course a lot of these people have to work their way through the grid in order, but I mean that must throw you completely off while you're on track.
For sure, and like getting your head back in the right zone is difficult if things aren't going to plan at the start. The good thing here is that there is a bigger pit window than in other races. So for those guys, they can come in, get the damage repaired, and then they can get back out into hopefully some clean air where they can just start setting some quick laps. So it's like the fuel's not ideal, but it will help them make some sort of an undercut in order to get back to where they want to be on the standings.
Of course, of course. Now you were able to do the start of the race. We saw a little bit of a jumble in the beginning of the race, but I mean, talk us through the laps of this race. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was really crazy due to the fact of how everybody was trying to work their way through the grid order.
Yeah, I mean, certainly lap 1 was all I really got to see. So you'll know better than me what's going on, but it's once things are already mixed up, then it makes for a really good race.
Of course, 100%. As we see P16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 freight training all through this track here, as we see Cooper Simmons trying to hold off Michelle, who has already dove into the pits. Now, as a driver, because, Michelle having to check out a little bit, probably Cooper not knowing where he was on the track. But as a driver, when you're racing, I mean, I get, everybody's fighting for position here in this race, but right now, I mean, as a driver, how would you be, as Michelle, you've already pitted, you've got the fast pace, and then you're just trying to make your way around Cooper, but it just doesn't seem, as he seems to outbrake him and get around him.
Yeah, it's really tricky because you've got to exercise some patience. If he tries to go for it too soon, then it could be game over for both of them, or he could end up getting stuck behind for too long. But it's some drivers, if they know that the guy behind has a lot of pace, they might just find a good portion on the track to yield it a little bit. But some might not. It's still for position at the end of the day.
And that's very true, very true. As we see Brian Douglas managing to get past Josh Kimball. During the practice session, we heard a little bit of news that Josh Kimball was having a little bit of an issue with tire temps and pressures going into this race based on how the heavy load for the Mercedes is around this track, and it's definitely something that catches a lot of these drivers off. But with the higher temperatures at the start, my question is with a 4 p.m. start at the end, where are these drivers going to actually where are they going to sit here during this race towards the end when the temperatures start dropping off? Because for those that don't know, even though it's a 1 hour race, we have a ×2 multiplier, which makes it a 2 hour in-game race. So the temperatures could drop off by the time they get to that 6 p.m. area.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to make a huge difference. The good thing is that if the temperatures are dropping a little bit, everything's already up to temperature, and unless it's a really big drop off, you're already in the zone in terms of just having driven for 40 so minutes. So hopefully it won't have a huge impact on at least a negative impact on the drivers.
And that is very true. And now this battle for P2 is spicing up as well for the lead for the race, as we see Farmer in that Honda trying to keep Alex doing in the battle here with Wilson all over the back end of the Farmer in that Honda. Farmer's showed a lot of strong pace and performance, but Wilson is just not giving up here in this race. I mean, this is truly an amazing battle that we're starting to see here. We wanted strong competition to come out and to take the battle towards Aiden Hasbrock. Sadly, he did not finish the race. He had to quit out. What a shame there for him. We hope him for the best. But I mean, Wilson here. I mean, these drivers are just pushing in laps here as we go through. Now the question is as a driver, as yourself, what were you going for the strategy? Were you doing a standard split strategy where pit in the middle and hope for the best, or were you practically pretty much just playing it by ear and just seeing how everything played out?
For me, I'm happy with a straight split. I'll just go 50-50. Just keeping it simple, really. If you were anticipating that you were going to be in the top few, in the like towards the front, then it makes a lot more sense to pit as late as possible, because you want to give yourself the best chance of being dropped into clean air.
Oh, 100%. As we start to see, it looks like Casey Bennett sitting there in P4. He's 2 seconds ahead of Andrew Jaschke, but he's 12.4 seconds away from the leaders. He's kind of in his own little world during this race in that Porsche, just hanging in there as they go through. Now we're going to drop back down, take a relook at Josh Kimball here in this battle with Brian Douglas, as the race between the head drivers have kind of stalemated here. Now Josh Kimball has really honed in his skill level with this Mercedes-Benz, as we've seen him develop. Last season, I believe it was with the Lexus. A season before that, it was with the Ferrari here at GT Meister Racing. But he's really come out strong with this Mercedes-Benz. As a driver in ACC, do you really see that a lot of these cars actually do favor a lot of the driver, or is it really down to the setup? Because as a driver myself, it's kind of like I can take a lot of the cars and do the same lap time, but there are a few of those cars where there's something about it, it just clicks.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Really, like you said, Josh has spent a little bit of time driving this car now, so he's really getting in tune with it. Some cars you'll drive and right off the bat things just seem to be working, and others it takes a little while. So like there's nothing that practice can't fix, but certainly it's some are easier than others, and it depends on your driving style.
100%. As we start to see the leaders start to hit the back markers as they come through the backside of the track down into the final chicane, that's going to bunch the group up. Farmer was looking, he was about 4/10 off the pace. Thankfully, the back marker did not try to impede everything, as Farmer sends it in deep, trying to go the inside, but Alex covers. Now here comes Wilson. Does the BMW get a better run than the Honda? We all know that the Honda has a lot of power and pace and performance, but does it have the traction to roll himself out? He shoots it deep, but the BMW gets a beautiful run on the inside. For those that do not know, ACC has a big balance of performance group, and the Honda, one of the cars that was untouched in this game, got a big performance here. So it actually balanced itself out, and so did the Aston Martin here. And that BMW has always been a dark horse in most of the league racing that I've been a part of. And it's one of those random cars that it's like the Bentley. It's just really good at almost everything here in the race. But I'm super happy to see this grid order. We have Aston Martin P1, Honda P2, BMW 3, Porsche 4, Audi 5, Porsche 6, Audi 7, BMW 8, McLaren 9, with Mercedes-Benz P10. Oh, as we see the Honda of Andrew Cooper jump Kimball. Looks like Kimball possibly could have lost it around this track.
I think he might have had a difficult exit from the last corner there.
Now these drivers, these leaders are working their way through the grid. Now it's definitely going to be interesting to see how Alex utilizes the grid to get through, because you know Farmer and Wilson are going to want to stay on their tail, but Farmer doesn't want to lose out a whole lot of time and get attacked by Wilson in a corner, because while the drivers, there are blue flag situations. If, it's not like Formula One where a driver has to move over immediately. So right now, Farmer's going to have to try to get his way past through the Liquid squad, Liquid Death team here, as Farmer loses the back and twitches. Here comes Wilson. The Aston Martin does not impeach, but Wilson's going to have a beautiful run. I know a lot of drivers during the free practice session was talking about how they were going to work their way through traffic here, and it's definitely one of those weird tracks where you want to let the leaders through. As we see Buckley and P8 dive into the pits, he's going to be one of the first of the top 10s aside from Michelle diving into the pits. Now the interesting question here is, there's not a whole lot of places to let people pass other than the back straight and the main straight. As a driver yourself and you're working your way down the hill, where do you look and try to gain something? Ooh, as we see the BMW get a run.
I'm going to hold that thought for a moment as we watch this battle.
So right now, so far in the championship standings, Wilson is leading by 2 points as Aiden Hasbrock managed to grab the fastest lap, as we see the Ferrari dive in the pits. Oh, Wilson's into the pits. Oh, this is going to be a spicy one. Now Farmer doesn't have someone attacking. Stefan Buckley's coming out of the pits. Farmer's going to have to adjust his line. He's going to lose a lot of time going into turn 1, but it's not on the pit lane guy to have to hit the brakes.
So from turn 1 onwards and everything we see down the hill, it's almost impossible to let someone by here in a reasonable way. Even at this point, it's all flowing together, and then we're going to get the right-hander. We've got the break point is that little slip road that we just passed on the left, and it's not until at the top of the hill here that you can kind of just drift wide and let someone through.
As we see Mathis Tuda now all over the back of Andrew Cooper for this P9 slot. Mathis Tuda managing to recover really well. And here comes Wilson Fernandez. He's out of the pits. No penalty for him, so he's going to be smooth sailing. He's actually going to put himself in a very strong position here, especially for pace, because he's not too far down the order to where it's going to throw him off, but it's not. It's going to be a good one, because right now, halfway through, you're expecting a lot of the leaders to dive into the pits. As we see Andrew Cooper covering the inside, Tuda looking super racy in that Ferrari, trying to work his way through the grid. This is definitely a wonderful battle. Tuda's looking to, is he going to try to send it? Up the hill they go. Cooper leaving enough space. Ooh, a little bit of a tap there. Nothing too major, but Tuda manages to squeeze right by and get going. Alex is in the pits. So now the question comes, if you're in Farmer's position top, do you push? Do you push like hell to try to separate the biggest gap that you possibly can? Or
yeah, so, he just got held up a little bit there, but now there's a big gap in front of him, so he's got clean track. That's what he needs one way or another. So I think he should take advantage of that and just push to the end, pretty much as far as the end of the pit window potentially.
Okay, so Tuda dives in the pits. We're going to see Wilson Fernandez. He's on the main straight. How much is Cooper? We know this is still battle for position, but let's take a look. Where is Alex? Alex, he leapfrogged Alex. Wilson is going to have to cover the brakes. And this is where we were talking originally about a lot of these faster drivers having to watch their brake marks, because some of the drivers down in the back, they don't brake as super late as people would expect them to. As we see the drivers work their way through, Wilson trying to make something happen through the order here. Cooper Simmons gets a 30-second stop go, probably after serving his pit there in the bottom order. Let's take a look. Now we see Tuda was in the pits. Hopkins is going to dive in the pits. Roku's going to dive in the pits. A lot of new faces of drivers in the league here. Definitely, what do you think of all these newer drivers here in the league?
It's amazing. There's a good spread as well. That like some really fast drivers have come in, some drivers in the mid pack, and the more the better.
As Wilson sending it deep into the hairpin. And here comes Alex. Cooper is now getting attacked by the previous leaders as the Porsche of Maruccio dives into the pits as they work their way through. Now the question is, it still comes into, can Farmer separate a big enough gap from the other drivers to help him? But looks like the undercut strategy possibly may be helping, because now Michelle is up to P10, and he was one of the first drivers to actually dive into the pits. But Alex definitely knows he's got the pace and performance in that Aston, and he's going to have to try to get past Andrew Cooper the best way possible. Let's take a look in the back area of Andrew Cooper. Is Alex going to try something? It's definitely a risky move, especially on that weird uphill right-hander, because you're off camber. Now he's going to try to go around the outside. Is he going to make it stick? Cooper covers the inside, closes the door just a pinch. Good on Alex for covering the brakes a little bit right there. As we see John Bowling, he dives in the pits. Farmer's in the pits. So right now we have Wilson coming up to the, he already went through the final chicane. They're going to reach up to the hairpin. Alex gets a beautiful run out of that chicane compared to the Honda. Wow, what an interesting, it's so interesting seeing the different manufacturers and how they react in the races. We see Casey Bennett also dive into the pits here on these late pit strategies. I mean, how much are you noticing a big difference on a lot of these tracks?
In terms of the pit strategy?
The natural performance of the cars, whether they handle certain bumps or outbrake in certain ways. Ooh, as Farmer gets leapfrogged. Farmer's still waiting to get out of the pit lane.
He's going very slow. There's something up with that car right now.
As now they're going to leapfrog dramatically on Farmer, as Farmer's starting to fall back down. Cooper is still out on the race. Alex is still working his way. He's going to try to get past Kevin Tarrant here. As we see Cooper, Simmons is trying to get out of the way of Alex because he knows the pace and performance of Alex. But at the same time, that battle behind them is still developing. That is definitely an interesting one, especially when you have front pack, back pack, people not pitted. This race is truly developing, and we're only hitting 5:20 p.m. Looks like the sun dropped, and we've lost about 3 degrees Celsius on the track here. So Farmer has dropped down to P10 in this race so far in the pit rotation. And right now it's Fernandez, Alex, Michelle, and then it's Bercio, who was originally P5 right behind Casey Bennett. Casey Bennett is right behind Farmer, so this is definitely going to be an interesting one to see how this plays out with these drivers, because I know Farmer is going to be wanting to push as hard as possible as we watch him right behind the Porsche driver, but this is just, slowing him up here in this battle as we develop. Now, as a driver, you get to the lead, you run 2 or 3 laps, you try to put in solid hot laps to try to rebuild and regain. I mean, like, what's going on in your mind? For you, if this was you, what's going on in your mind? Are you trying to just stay focused, or is it just push, 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 I have to pass?
For the leaders who are now further back in the pack, they're going to want to get past anyone who might be impeding their lap times. They want to get past as soon as possible. But if they've got clear air, then it's good consistent laps. If you're hot lapping, but you've got you have one good lap and one bad lap, and that's not going to do your overall any good. So like good quick consistent times is key for them. To answer your question before, for sure, like the different cars at at certain circuits will excel. You know, I think Porsche's quite good at Laguna. Here, you said with the BOP adjustment, the Honda seems to be pretty good. McLaren historically has been pretty good here. So yeah, it definitely makes a difference.
Of course, 100% as we watch Farmer trying to make it past the Porsche driver, and this is a battle for position. There is no having to give up anything as the drivers. We see Afonso dive into the pits. Tim Wilkins is still staying out in that Mercedes car right in front of him. As we see Brian Douglas, of course, our late pit strategy man in the league race, the guy who usually goes for the longest strategy possible. He's sitting there P2 right behind Andrew Jaschke as these guys are working their way through. Now the thing about this track is, like, as much as, you know, you're on a constant turn, so unless Farmer goes super wide and loses it. Thankfully he was able to save it here in this race. What a because that could have possibly gone super wrong for himself on the track.
Really easy to lose it on the grass there, but he was able to just run it through and get back on and seemingly not lose too much.
Now here they work their way up to Tim Wilkins. Tim Wilkins, he's a little bit off, probably just a little bit unsettling them as they work their way through the track as Farmer sends it, and he's going to manage to squeeze through. Now he's going to send it up on the inside of Tim Wilkins as he works his way through. Now the question is the Porsche driver going to try it as well as they go down into the hairpin? The Porsche driver definitely holding tight right behind that Honda. Looks like he possibly has a little bit of pace and performance that he held back. Andrew Jaschke's in the pits. Looks like he is starting to possibly roll out. He is, as he's coming down the pit straight. So definitely see where he cycles. Tim Wilkins dives into the pits. Casey Bennett is going to get the jump over. As we see, here comes Andrew Jaschke, the Porsche right in front of him. Oh, what an amazing little bit dodge there when you're coming out. I mean, because you're a lot of times, you know, you're coming down that front straight, and your main thought is, okay, where's my brake mark? You know, where's my? As we see Michelle off the track here, so that is definitely, as he dove back into the pits. Question is, did he lose it at all here in the race? He would have slotted himself a very strong P3 here, as we see Wilson Fernandez, Alex Adurin, P1 and 2, as we see Farmer is P4, but he's going to get that leapfrog on Michelle that's in P3. What a shame there in this race, as Michelle looking for his first podium after a few bad races here at GT Meister Racing. A Common Cold says in the chat, Porsche is strong here too. It is, yes it is, as we watch the drivers work their way through. Let's take a look in this backpack battle here of Andrew Jaschke and Casey Bennett. Casey Bennett managing to reel in. Now, Andrew Jaschke did say he was having a little bit of issues with this car, trying to wrangle it in for this race. I do know, like, driving the Audi in some of the endurance events that I participated in, it definitely throws you off a little bit on pace with those cars. But it's definitely interesting to see where they come through here. Let's take a look. Andrew Jaschke's looking nice. Let's take a look down the grid order and see where we're at. As we see Ricky Scott 6/10, Louis 7/10. Josh Kimball in that P14 spot. He's going to leapfrog Michelle. Michelle sits in the pits. That downhill section, I have to say, as a driver, when you're following the car in front, you're pretty much flat out and you're just hoping that the guy in front of you does not second guess himself and hits the brakes super early, because you are carrying so much speed down that hill.
Yeah, it's thrilling. It's one of my favorite parts of the track, if not the favorite, because yeah, it really gets your hair standing up on end.
So here we have it. Casey Bennett now all over the back end of Andrew Jaschke. This is for a P4 position. Andrew Jaschke catching up the brakes here. He's going to have to watch out, but Casey Bennett's going to get a beautiful run on the red Porsche. He's going to try it on the inside, down into the hairpin. Oh, he's going to make it stick. We have Porsche 4 and 5, but Andrew Jaschke can't take the fight back on Casey Bennett, but can he make it stick as they work their way up to the hairpin? Ooh, looks like he a little bit heavy on the brakes and had to take the wider line as they go through. Now, for those that do not know, Casey Bennett, this is his first season with the Porsche. He has put his laps in just like everybody else here in this league, and he has showed a strong performance here in that red Porsche as he's worked his way through the grid. He and I have decreed that we are going to be teammates for the Apollo Racing Club season that is held on Saturdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for those that also want to check out an amazing league as well as GT Meister Racing. Definitely check us out on Saturday. Their league posting should be coming up on SimGrid, as well as you'll find our league in SimGrid as well. They're a bit of a sister, a little friendly team club that we like to support each other with the success in North America. Now, Andrew Jaschke's got to try to figure something out here because he just lost the pace. Casey's going to cover the inside a little bit. Oh, late on the... Oh, if he had made that stick on the outside, I would have just given him driver of the day immediately. But he didn't. Let's take a look down the order and see what we have. This is the closest battle we have. Ricky Scott, he's 0.6 off the pace of what looks to be Bruce Hopkins, but this right here is really developing because I know Casey's going to want to try to get that P4 back, and he's going to try to work his way through that back marker in that Lexus. Alex has the fastest lap right now, sitting P2. Ooh, he manages to stick that Porsche down into turn 1. There goes Casey as well, but now Andrew Jaschke's going to get locked up there on the downhill. But is the Lexus driver going to let him through? They do. Now that's going to hurt Jaschke a little bit. He's going to have to push a little bit harder and deeper into these braking zones to try to catch this Porsche. Casey Bennett talked to me about his setup strategy here in this race, Tom. And I asked him, I was like, hey, how do you get that car perfectly locked? And he's like, maximum 12 way, maximum. And it's interesting to see how a lot of these cars react when they go around the corners.
You say the trail braking.
Yes, that as well. Something that I've been told that I do not do a very good job at because I'm old by the younger drivers in the league, and I just go, okay. When we were doing our endurance event, I was told I had to look at the graph from the braking marks and to see where I was at trail braking, and for some reason I couldn't figure out how to brake properly. So they were just like, just keep racing. I was like, okay. As we see, Casey Bennett sends it in on the inside, and that's going to leave the Porsche driver is going to hold up as Casey Bennett now checks over as he slides over. We also have Afonso on the back end of Josh Kimball as this battle was developing last race at Snetterton. We're going to possibly switch over to that for a split second as we see, because right now this battle is just growing right here with the top three. We're going to quickly take a jump down and see Afonso gets a good braking zone. Now, can he get a run on Josh Kimball, or is this going to be a commentator curse for him? The Aston Martin gets a good run on the Mercedes. He's going to look down on the inside. Josh Kimball goes for the outside. Ooh, goes super late and locks the brakes up a little bit. That's going to allow Afonso through. We're going to just say that's a commentator curse, but Josh Kimball can come back. He's going to look on the inside. Afonso now covers. Josh Kimball tries to push him in a sense of getting him to mess up his braking marks as he goes around this track here. As we try to see, Farmer now 21 seconds off the pace of Alex in P2. We're going to have to kind of see where he sits there in the track overall. With about 15 minutes left, can he manage to reel in P2? That's going to be an astonishing one as we see as Afonso gets past Josh Kimball and manages to pull a little bit of a gap to Josh Kimball. Now let's just jump back up in front here and take a look at this fight between Casey Bennett, Andrew Jaschke, and Mauricio. I apologize if I'm botching your last name, but I don't think I am. As we see, as we go through here, the Audi is looking super strong here. The back end of that Porsche is just stepping out just a pinch here as they work their way through this downhill section.
Yeah, it was very odd whatever happened to Farmer, but obviously he got the car going again. It just seemed that as he was leaving his pit box, it didn't want to go. He was full throttle, he was in first gear, pit limiter on, and it wouldn't
Ooh.
go past like 25 Ks.
Andrew Jaschke on the outside. Is Casey Bennett going to try to fight him? He's not. He's going to allow Andrew Jaschke through. He lost the back end there. You know, I think possibly, I don't know. We'd have to check with the podium interviews. I think Farmer was possibly doing the manual start procedure to gain the time in the pit strategy. So maybe that was something where, you know, you get something going, but then you hit the full throttle and then maybe it craps out a little bit, possibly.
Just even once he was over the line, it was just not going, and it wasn't until he stopped it, shifted back to neutral, and then back into first that it lit up. So
Interesting.
yeah, an odd one.
So as we see, these drivers are still battling it out. Casey Bennett trying to make something happen on Andrew Jaschke after that little bit of wiggle there. But that Audi, ooh, he's getting a little bit of a snap oversteer in that Porsche, which is interesting because you'd think right now the Porsche would have a lot of understeer in that car due to the fuel load decreasing and the front end leaving the you know, lifting a little bit in the chassis as they reach the back marker here. Now we're going to jump down the grid order here a little bit, and we're going to take a look. Where is Ricky Scott? As Ricky Scott is just catching Bruce Hopkins. It originally was 2/10 off the pace. Ooh, he late brakes to try to catch Bruce Hopkins in that Aston Martin down in P16. This is for a final point. If Ricky Scott can get past Bruce Hopkins, he's going to get 1 point in the championship here. Looks like Dominic Square dives into the pits as well. Looks like he possibly had a little bit of damage, or he's calling it a night here in this race. As we also see Poe, the new driver Bruno, is sitting there P9. He's 6/10 off the pace of Tuda's recovery drive after the start of the race. Oh, Ricky Scott gets a run on the inside. Side by side they go down the hill. Ooh, makes it stick. What a beautiful move right there, especially to make that stick on the downhill section. That is wonderful right there. As it looks like Casey Bennett is backed off, and Andrew Jaschke is still taking the pace. We're going to jump along board with Poe here, as he's still trying to make something happen with that McLaren on that Ferrari of Mathis Tuda here.
Yeah, Pierre had a really good qualifying, but just got caught up in turn 1 on the first lap. So I think if he can rise up through the field a little bit, then he can have a good result.
Yes, very much so. So that's definitely going to be something that's going to happen in the stewards report. Which one of those drivers that are up in the front possibly had a little bit of an incident, and you know that may actually help. As we're going to jump along board, looks like Jaschke was 1/10 away from the pace of the Porsche driver. Ooh, super late on the brakes as these drivers are working their way through the grid. That's definitely going to be something that we're going to have to take a look at when the time penalties come in. Who jumps who when they go through the grid order here in this race.
Yeah, I mean that's stuff we'll have to sort through afterwards, but it certainly lap 1 was, I'm not going to say carnage, but there was a lot of different things happening. It's not, you know, we'd have to take a bit of time to look at it.
Of course, 100%. As we see the Audi driver of Andrew Jaschke trying to make something stick down into the downhill section. And as they reach back markers, here they go. We'll definitely have to see. Now we see Peter David in that Honda, the purple-green one, doing a little bit of a contrast color with you because you do the blue and green on your Honda.
Yeah.
For the race, as we see Peter David with the blue and green just in front of them, and they will be catching Peter David. Peter David's going to let them through, and as we see, there's Tim Wilkins right in front of them.
Yeah, I don't think Peter and I had been on track together this season so far. I didn't know he was in the Honda, so
Yes.
yeah, those cars do go pretty well together. Unfortunately, they came a little bit too close early on in the race, but yeah, it's looking very nice. It's
Well,
metallic.
Well, I do know talking to Peter David prior to the start of the season, because he did miss out the first race, but he was there for Snetterton. He did let me know, and I was like, "Wow, Peter, pick the." I was like, "Can you pick the Porsche next season so it can get a buff in the game?" And he goes, "Why?" I was like, "Well, last season you were in the Aston Martin, and then you switched over to the Honda, and then both of them got power increases at the start of this season, so I was asking him if he can pick the Porsche next season for me."
Yeah.
Ooh, as Tim Wilkins goes off the track. Now the question is Andrew Jaschke going to be able to make it stick? Tim Wilkins is going to concede the spot on the track to allow the front runners through. And now Casey Bennett's going to have to try to get his way through. And Andrew Jaschke, is he going to try it up the inside? He sends it super late lunge. But the back
I think
end
he realized that that move was not gonna. It was good that both drivers made it through there.
Yes, very much so. Down into the final chicane they go. Now this is the interesting part, especially as a commentator, but also as a driver when I watch. When you get the front pack drivers going through, and then it's like you come up to a spot where it's like, cool, all right, I let you by, blue flag situations, and then you make a mistake. Now I have to react to you, and I could pass you. It's like, but I don't want to lift. It's just one of those oddball situations, and I'm glad to see the drivers working their way through the grid order as well. They're definitely
Yeah,
helping each other out.
for sure. I think if you're in the lead pack and you make a mistake, you have to accept that whatever the consequence of that is, and
Of
so
course.
you can't. It's you have to consider it the same as a rejoin, really.
Hmm.
So if you are the blue flagged driver, I think you just need to drive. The more normal you drive, the better. If you start trying to react to things or overreact to things, it's
Hmm.
can make it worse.
Of course, of course. Now we're going to jump back down to Mathis Tuda and Stefan Buckley, because right now the Audi of Stefan Buckley jumps Poe as they go through here, as they work their way down the hill with the McLaren definitely all over the back of the Audi. Now the question is, Stefan Buckley, ooh, he covered the door just enough, just so the McLaren driver couldn't send it, but he's going to try to go side by side up this hill here as they go through.
Really heavy defending from Stefan.
Very much so, as this is a battle for position, but this is now going to allow Tuda to get a little bit of a breathing space here. But that long chassis of that McLaren allows it to be super stable on the long sweeping corners, where I've noticed the cars such as the Audi definitely suffer with it because of the rotation. As now the McLaren gets a run, is he going to try it up on the inside? Does not look like he really gets it to stick.
Yeah, and if you saw like on the straight heading down towards the chicane, what Stefan did was just plant the car in the middle of the track so that the trailing car doesn't really know whether they should go right, go left. Neither is a particularly good option. That's a fantastic piece of defense.
Of course, 100%. Because it's like, some of these tracks where you place your car can either save you or it could lose you a little bit here, um, especially with what's coming up next. And definitely that's one of those ones that can definitely help you. So right now we're going to go down the running order while we have 5 minutes left to play, and we are now at 25 degrees Celsius in the temperature here at this track. So it's dropped 5 degrees Celsius. We have Wilson Fernandez leading this race with Alex are doing. He's sitting there P2 with the fastest lap. Farmer is P3. P4 is Mauricio in that Porsche. Andrew Jaschke in the Audi of P5. Casey Bennett reeling in a P6. Mathis Tuda definitely a drive to survive, I would have to say, because I do remember seeing his car kind of going off-road a little bit in the beginning of the race. He's sitting there P7. Stefan Buckley bringing in P8. PO P9 in that McLaren. Lacrocu in the Lexus. I apologize for botching your name. Brian Douglas P11. Afonso P12. Louis bringing in P13. Josh Kimball P14. And Andrew Cooper, knock on wood, he can make it through the whole entire race. He is sitting P15 for that 1 point spot right there as they work their way down the grid order. But honestly, this has been a very shocking race so far in this season, because a lot of these drivers, as we see Afonso, he is now all over the back end of Brian Douglas. There hasn't been a whole lot of like there were a few big things that happened in this race, especially like Farmer's pit strategy, or not really pit strategy, but what happened in the pits, you know what I mean? But all in all, I was, very shocked and very happy. A lot of these drivers are working together in this race as Andrew Croup 3 wide down into the hairpin. Casey sends it. Oh, that's going to make Jaschke go wide. Now this is going to be a switchback. Now Casey's going to get the lead in the P4 spot. Now the Porsche has jumped back 4, so now Andrew Jaschke is feeling the pressure. He's going to have to try to do a switchback, but you have one Porsche covering the outside, one Porsche covering the inside, and now the Audi is sitting in behind. What a beautiful time to switch over with the drivers coming through. So now Casey Bennett is going to try to push as hard as he possibly can and make something happen here to separate himself from the other Porsche. Oh, there's a little bit of a tap I saw out of the Audi driver with the Porsche. He's going to try it on the outside as they work their way down the hill. Is Jaschke going to try to outbrake the Porsche as he goes through? He takes a look, but the Porsche covers over him. Oh, what a beautiful run with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left to play. Oh, Alex gets a drive-through. Oh, that is going to definitely hurt him. So that's going to allow Farmer up into that P2 spot here in this race, unless he serves it in a weird spot. I don't know what the delta is between Farmer, but Farmer is about 18 seconds. So what do you think the gap is in? Oh no, okay, Farmer's 25 seconds as Andrew Jaschke tries it on the outside up to the chicane. He sends it, gets around the Porsche driver. Now, will the Porsche driver make the move on the Audi? The Audi is going to cover the inside, swoop back over to the apex. I apologize for cutting you off.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty short pit lane, so we're just about to see where he comes out. I think he's going to have made it out in front of Farmer there, so not in terms of standings, it hasn't penalized him much.
Oh,
we just see the
what happened there? I was
cars
busy
coming together.
Oh man, what a shame there.
It looked like a clash between Andrew Jaschke and Maurizio. Maurizio perhaps trying to go up the inside of the final turn.
Well, that's definitely going to be one of those the stewards are going to have to take a look at. Now, with the pit strategy and the drive-through, Farmer's been able to bring it down to 7.7 seconds here in the race. But now we're going to drop back down with PO because this battle here is definitely developing. Brian Douglas, oh man, the telemetry just lies to me every day. It says 0.006 away. As we jump back up board with PO, as these drivers are freight training down the hill, will the McLaren driver make something happen on the Audi driver as the Aston Martin goes super wide into the dirt? He's going to have to try to rejoin safely without crashing into anybody, but there's his teammate as they squeeze through. Beautiful job there. We have 12 seconds left to go, and it is getting spicy, ladies and gentlemen. Buckley covers the inside, the McLaren on the outside. Switchback uses the dirt a little bit to try to make it work. What a beautiful showing from the new Brazilian driver here in this race as they make a dive into the final chicane. The McLaren driver gets a beautiful run on the Audi on the inside. Here he goes up to the hairpin. Is Buckley going to try to switch back on him? The McLaren driver takes it a little bit slow, trying to make his way around the corner, definitely to help him. But Does not look like Afonso is anywhere near to take the battle between them as they go through. Here comes the final corner. They're still going to have a final lap. They have a lapped car in front of them, a blue flag as they go through. The McLaren is now going to try to leapfrog them. He's going to slow up and allow the Audi through as they work their way through. Down the hill they go. What an amazing showcase of pace and performance out of these two drivers here in the start of the races. We have a yellow 91. That's going to be Cooper Simmons, if I'm correct. It is. He crossed the line, and he's going to be done with his race as the drivers work their way through here. As Wilson Fernandez wins the Donington Park race here at GT Meister Racing as they work their way through here. Andrew Jaschke 8/10 off the pace, but it does not look like Stefan Buckley's going to work his way up the grid, but we'll keep an eye on it because anything happens. Fonzo is done, Douglas is done, Louis is done, Kimball's done, Andrew Cooper is done. Alex has finished P2 with Farmer P3 as we go through. Casey Bennett takes P4, Andrew Jaschke 5. Mauricio P6, Tuda most likely going to take P7, but the question is what's going to happen with 7 and 8? I mean 8 and 9, I apologize. It looks like Buckley is not going to have what it takes to try to reel him in here as they come through the final bend, as the smoke and the fireworks are going. As they cross the line, we're going to have Pio at P8, Buckley P9, Lacroix P10. He should be coming up here shortly. Congratulations to the winners in the race. Huge shout out to the top drivers. We're going to be, we'll be right back real quick. We're going to get the podium drivers here very shortly. Just give me 1 second. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back and we are honored with the podium finishers. Our winners, Wilson Fernandez, second place, Alex Arduin, and our P3 finisher, Tyler Farmer. Tyler, Mr. Farmer, you had a wonderful free practice, putting the car, provisional pole, setting the pace, setting the limits, qualifying, not really where you wanted to be, but you were still managed to be in that top 10, in the front pack of the top 10 within the race. You kind of got to, you had to work your way through to get up there. You managed to slot yourself up to P2. Talk us through your race, because we're very curious during the stream what happened with the pit strategy?
Yeah, it was a great race. Thanks for having us all in a full grid. So super happy. Yeah, it was a really awesome race right from the start. I was a bit rude to Aiden Hasselbrock because I had to give him a wiggle to to settle the first corners and follow the guys, and I did make a slight change right before the race. I dropped the PSI by just like nothing, and I lost kind of like the left side of the car. It was a stupid
Oh,
mistake.
and
So it
you're
was, but
primarily on the left side of the car.
yes, but it was still a great pace, and luckily I had references ahead of me. Michelle was racing really fast, and then Arduin and Fernandez were basically setting the pace for everyone. So we were following. Then I benefited from a lot, but really cool racing. But the balance was just really bad. So I held up actually Fernandez for a while, with just the braking because I didn't have the left front, but the left rear was okay, but the left front was nothing. So and then the pit stop happened. It was cool, and I think I would have came in between Arden and Fernandez, or be maybe a second behind if all went perfect. And then when I came out the pits, the car stalled, and it just kept stalling all the way
Oh.
down past the exit, and I couldn't get it to start. And I was hitting all of the engine maps and the TC to try and just get it to go, and it would not go. Then I can't remember what I did, but then it started going, and then so I lost so much time, maybe like 20 seconds or something, and I held up guys coming out the pits and guys coming into turn one, so it was a big mess. I was hoping it wasn't broadcasted, but that was the race. Then after that, the like I said, I didn't change the tire pressures. I didn't notice, so it was just trying to bring the car home. I got three cut warnings,
Mm-hmm.
so I had to drop the pace by a lot to make sure I just at least got the P3. So I kind of predicted there'd be something this race, and there was. But really happy that got to finish.
Well, that's awesome, and congratulations on finishing P3 and starting to try to close the gap to Fernandez here. But we're going to be jumping along board and moving over to P2 here in this race, and that is the man himself, Alex. Uh, I apologize for botching your name.
Uh,
Arduin.
Ardwin's close enough. It's Cajun French, so good luck.
Oh, okay. So it's not me. All right. Well, partially me.
It's definitely not you. You'd be surprised what I've heard from many people over the years.
Well, congratulations on P2. All looked to possibly be lost towards the end of the race with that drive through. We weren't really sure. Both Tom and I in the booth weren't very sure whether or not that drive through was really going to affect a whole lot and whether or not Farmer was going to get past it. So thankfully there was enough of a gap built up to allow you to get through there. Talk us through your race, and it seemed like a lot of the front runners were able to get through the packs a lot easier than what most people were really going to think with Donington Park.
Yeah, traffic is definitely a bit more of an issue this week than it was at Centerton last week. And just unfortunately, I lost some time to Fernandez with traffic, but such is the way of racing. Sometimes it worked to my benefit, sometimes it worked to his. Just it's how it goes sometimes. But yeah, the opening stint was pretty good. I was struggling a little bit with consistency, and then made a few big mistakes while I was trying to address the tire pressures before the pit stop. But yeah, I had really good race pace, good consistency with the first stint. Had a decent pit stop, but just the second stint could not seem to keep up the same kind of pace that I could do in the first stint. And I don't know if it was just track temps and everybody was struggling, but it seemed like Fernandez he didn't lose as much as I did. It seemed. And yeah, the drive-through, man. I guess somebody must have moved the little tire barrier a little bit after the first lap, because I was judging the turn or in the chicane using that tire barrier in the first two laps. I got two warnings back to back. So it was a long time before I got a third one, and man, I must have just barely cut it a little too much to get that drive through, because I felt like I even took a little bit of pace off that
Mm-hmm.
particular corner. But part of racing, and trying to make up time to try and see if I can catch Fernandez, and doing that through the chicane. Just that's how it goes sometimes. But no, I'm a bit surprised to finish as well as I did, especially with that drive-through, because practice it just seemed like I was struggling for pace the whole time. Really only put one decent lap together in practice, and then qualifying was absolutely woeful. I think I actually ran a faster lap in the race than I did in Q. It was just absolutely dreadful, and thankfully it still resulted in me starting in P3, so I wasn't stuck back in the pack, trying to fight my way forward. Just was a bit shocked, but happy to do as well as I did.
Well, hey, based on the last race at Snetterton, where you kind of lost out on your P2 and managed to move to P3, at least now you can officially sit there and say that you slotted yourself into a P2 finish here in GT Meister Racing, and congratulations again. And with that being said, we're going to actually jump along board and talk to our race winner, Wilson Fernandez. Welcome to the top spot on the podium booth. I mean, you're looking super strong and racy here. I mean, you're just taking the fight to farmer here and stretching your gap a little bit. In that BMW, it looked a little bit risky at the start of the race. I mean, you did put yourself at the on pole, and then you kind of lost a little bit. I mean, were you at least? I mean, with how everything played out, pit strategy, were you expecting the undercut to work so well?
Hello,
Yes.
I want to congratulate Alex and Farmer for the P2 and P3. At the beginning, I lost control at the chicane
Mm.
and lost some positions, and so I close again to Farmer and the Alex. So I tried the cut, but I don't expect the I come so much ahead. They After that, the Alex lost some pace. I think about the track temper.
Mhm.
So trying to not get the drive through and the chicane. Not 3 warnings all the race, but it was a great race.
Well, congratulations on your race win. It would be definitely interesting to see how your pace definitely showcases. It definitely looks like you've ramped it up since your opening race at Laguna Seca. As we go into Indianapolis next week, and everybody knows how a little bit tricky that track is based on the layout and the way the pace and the performance is. So it'd be definitely interesting to see how the drivers react and race there for next week's race. Um, but I definitely want to give a huge shout out to all of you guys for where you guys place. We're going to be signing off and calling it a night here at GT Meister Racing. And I definitely want to say thank you to all the viewers that watched and definitely contributed for us here at on twitch.com. If you'd like to join, check us out on SimGrid and on GridFinder. Just go in, and once you go to thesimgrid.com, click on the host, and then you'll find us at GT Meister Racing, and then that will give you a link to the Discord, as well as to sign up into the race session. It's been truly an honor to have all these guys here and all the drivers that participated, and I want to wish you guys all the best on a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Indianapolis.